You got nothing.
I do have Tyler Marshall with location and design. He's the engineer that has been designing this improvement. I'll turn over to him.
Yeah, so I'm Tyler Marshall. I would say for that, I don't know if a specific study has been done on how exactly it would impact local businesses, but in all the areas where we've installed them, there are businesses. So just down 29, we have one at 151. You have gas stations on both sides. I mean, is there no impact? Probably not, but it's perceived as very little in most cases. I mean, for these, kind of private gas stations, in most cases, people that existingly go to that gas station have a reason or kind of a perceived notion, hey, I've always gone there. In most cases, they continue to go there. There's another one further down in, I guess it's Amherst. Well, yeah, Amherst. But it's being built right now, like Perky's, off of 29. All of these instances, I mean, they have local businesses, but we're asking you to go an additional, 500 feet down the road. In some instances, it's not usually indicative of something that's going to keep someone from going where they already went. If this was an area where you had, I mean, like at the 151-29, you have a gas station across the street, maybe it kind of creates that illusion of, well, maybe I'll go to this one now because I don't have to cause traffic. But in this instance, most of those businesses are all fixed up.
I wonder, in the traffic statistics, do you have anything that relates to traffic coming and going from entrances and exits in that area, or is it flow through traffic? Do you understand my question?
Yes. I don't believe we show much as far as vehicle traffic through those instances. Most of it's just the collector roads that are coming to and from. If they get on the road from this and use the median or U-turn,
it's already difficult.
They would be collected.
Yeah.
But if traffic, said came from Colleen, went into the gas station and then left out the, on this side, the furthest south entrance, and then kept going south on 29, is that collected? Probably not. But we run most of it off of traffic counts that have been done along the corridor. So if, depending on where those tubes, I guess, are placed, would be whether they're attached to the amount of traffic that we're pushing through the traffic model for getting the operational impact of this configuration. If that makes sense.
Yes. Explain the pull belts for
Okay. But so I guess for these bulb outs, they're all created for the U-turn movement, mostly for larger truck traffic. So your 18-wheelers or your WV67 vehicles. So if you were coming out of 56, we're now restricting the left turn movement out. And so any vehicle trying to go northbound on 29 would use this U-turn right here. Passenger vehicles, smaller trucks aren't going to even need to use this, but tracking of an 18-wheeler would use this bulb out to kind of make its way northbound. The same on all of these ways. So if you're coming out of Arrington and you wanted to go southbound, you would come this way, use the U-turn, and make your way south.
And if you happen to miss one, there's another one.
There is
you
another
can
one.
get into.
Yeah. And so I guess looking at the symmetry of this, the only reason we don't have a bulb out further this way is mainly due to the traffic in this direction. This is residential. This is for the church. The anticipation is there's not going to be any large 18-wheelers probably going that way. So that's why there's no bulb out shown on this furthest north side. there's still a crossover here, so any passenger vehicles that say miss this, would still be able to turn around and go southbound. But the large truck traffic just didn't warrant needing to have a pole in that location.
I'm curious as to why you didn't actually go to the next intersection down past, so this is Blue Ridge Medical Center
Right.
here.
Cross
You can go to-
Why
cooperative.
you didn't go to across from the cooperative?
So in most cases, when we do that, if we have people coming here, let's say it's a large truck. If we did that, most of the cases, we would need to try to close this because a large truck is gonna see the first crossover and try to make that turn. And so in that case, most of the time we would close a crossover to then make sure that we get the anticipated, because we could still provide a safety incident if we didn't do this here. Left a regular crossover and then made the bulb out further down, you would have trucks that they're gonna go to the path of least resistance and just use the first crossover they come to. So in practice, a lot of times, if we're going to skip an intersection, a lot of times we will close that crossover to make sure we're getting the impact on the operation of the traffic through the corridor, how we're designed. To I guess leave less up to interpretation for the driver. And then this intersection is a little bit different from standard. It provides a U-turn lane all the way in the middle, for any vehicles making a U-turn, as well as just a left turn lane, directly off. So there are 4 lanes. This intersection is exactly how we did it, or exactly as designed, at the 29-151 arcut. To current, I don't believe we have any traffic crashes since then. Pretty sure.
Haven't heard anything, any crashes in that location.
And so, it's one of those things where it's it worked well there. It is a little bit a deviation from standard, but it's worked very well, where it's been placed. And this kind of, when looking at the turning movements for vehicles going up the side road and U-turn movements that are probably going to proceed after our cutting, calling, this was kind of just the orientation that operations led us to. And all of this is done in coinciding with the traffic study that's been completed for the corridor. It is kind of hard to see, but we're showing the cul-de-sac here that would still provide access to the private drives.
It's on State Road.
And the reason for closing these off is providing for this loom, or bulb out, the difference in grade there is probably going to lead to us needing a retaining wall. And in that case, both of these, it kind of just, it's going to provide a better overall project. If we take the retaining wall through here, grade it how we need to, and then that probably won't allow that access to it be possible.
Thank you.
Just moving on to the final slide here. Just a quick recap. These are the 2 projects that we are recommending for the upcoming round of Smart Scale. And as I mentioned at the beginning, no motion or resolution is needed from the board at this meeting. We look to probably come back to the board in front of maybe May or June for a resolution of support. Any final questions or comments?
If, would these be a package deal or would they be 2 separate requests?
Right, in regard to the resolution of support, I believe last time counties do it differently. Some do it as a bundled resolution of support. Some do it as an individual resolution for both projects.
So that's up to us.
It is up to the board.
What will be the speed limit through that? Still 45?
Currently, it's designed, it's posted.
About 60.
It's 45 from there.
That's caution.
Oh.
That's suggested. That's
Suggested.
Yeah, that's yellow.
Yes.
Suggested, right? Yeah, suggested.
Yeah.
Okay.
Going back to when I took my driver's ed. To Nashville.
Thank
To
you.
answer
Thank you all.
your question in, practical, terms, I personally have stopped using that Exxon in Clifford on 29, 151, just because of the way the traffic flow is. I'm an Exxon, I only get gas, Exxon pretty much. And the flow, because I need diesel, so the flow there, usually the way it is now, I can kind of jump over to go home from there, but usually I have to go all the way down 29 and make a U-turn and come all the way back up if I'm gonna use that station, so I just don't go there anymore. So to answer your question, does it impact, for me, yeah,
I-
that, in that location?
I agree. I used to stop there, and now I just plow through that intersection and go to
Colleen?
Amherst.
Or
yeah,
the other direct, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I avoid it like the plague.
yeah.
So I understand if you're supporting certain businesses and things, and you really have an inclination to go, it wouldn't impede you. But it was an interesting thought that it would.
Yeah.
Yes. This is Dylan.
I just wanted to add, regarding that question about the businesses, that corridor, VDOT, please correct me if I'm wrong, but part of the scoring criteria is economic development and land use. So the fact that those businesses are along those corridors would improve our scoring, and our, what's the word I'm looking for?
Your final project score.
Our project score and the way we compete with other applications. And that said, we're also planning on having a public meeting where county's gonna lead that, VDOT's gonna support us, where we're going to notify the landowners in that corridor so we can get public feedback and input before we come back with the resolution.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you very much, VDOT. All right, we have Nelson SPCA funding request, Denise Merrick's.
Don't have a fancy presentation, I apologize.
Did you bring any dogs?
I didn't. They're at the shelter though. Please do stop by and see them. First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to present information supporting our budget request this afternoon. I am Denise Merrick's. I've held the position of president of the Nelson County SPCA since July of 2025. Previously, I was the vice president. We do have two other board members present as well, our treasurer and another director. Just a brief history. A lot of people don't know what the SPCA is. We were founded in 1981. Basically, it's foster-based rescue. Our adoption facility opened up in 2004, and we have worked in the community to rehome adoptable cats and dogs pulled from animal control and from owner surrenders for over 20 years. If you count the foster-based rescue operations, it's actually much longer than that. We are a 501c3 charitable organization, and we operate the Almost Home Pet Adoption Center north of Livingston on Route 29. We are considered a private shelter. As such, we are subject to state laws. So all of the Code of Virginia that is applicable to private animal shelters and public animal shelters applies to our adoption facility. In 2025, we care for 89 dogs and 267 cats. Of those animals, 241 were adopted, 41 were transferred to other rescues or organizations, and 12 were humanely euthanized for untreatable medical reasons. We are the only resource in the community for residents to get assistance with cats, as animal control does not intake cats. We are not an open intake shelter. I have to repeat that. By law, we can only accept owner-surrendered cats, not strays. So we have worked really hard with the community to get them to care for stray cats that end up on their property, so that they end up in their custody for a period of time. We help them get a rabies shot. Majority of the time we will pay for that, and then they can surrender them as owner surrenders. Of the animals that we took in last year, again, we took in 267 cats. We did spend $143,000 on general veterinary expenses, and this included one instance of $3,000 for heartworm treatment for a Great Pyrenees that we pulled from animal control. We didn't realize the dog had heartworm, we would have still pulled it, but it did create an additional need for expenses in treating that animal. Within our program, we spayed and neutered 62 dogs and 179 cats, and that was within our adoption program. By law, all dogs and cats that enter our program, whether they're from animal control or owner surrendered, have to be spayed or neutered prior to adoption, excepting young puppies and kittens who are altered when they are old enough through our partner veterinarians and clinics. We facilitated low-cost spay-neuter clinics and access for 123 community member dogs and 196 community member cats. When needed, we provided financial assistance to those community members. Our financial assistance for community members was just under $44,000 for calendar year 2025. We sent out our fall newsletter. At that time, it was $35,000 that we had funded for community members. By December, it was closer to $44,000. We do budget on a calendar year basis, and our budget for 2026 includes $420,000 in expected donations. From our winter fund drive, we did raise $270,000, but that's only half of our annual operating expenses. Our expenses total $540,000 a year. Of this amount, $115,800 is for direct veterinary care, and it is budgeted for spay-neuter of program animals. $24,000 is currently budgeted for community spay-neuter support. If last year is any indication, that will not cover the cost for low-income residents who cannot afford spay-neuter. We will be covering that for those people. We did receive a small grant of $1,000 from the Virginia Federation of Humane Societies. That is going to go directly to offset some of our community spay-neuter expenses. We currently do not receive any funding from county sources. We do not receive any funding from national sources. We do have a few small grants. We are looking to try to get additional grants in the future. But currently the bulk of our income comes from donations from the community. In January, we invited all of our supervisors to come and tour our shelter and learn more about our operations. We've also invited Sheriff Embry for a tour. This outreach resulted in 2 of you coming to visit us, and Sheriff Embry also visited us. And what our goal is here is to strengthen our partnership with both the Sheriff's Office and the county government, to use the connections that we all have with the community, to make you all aware of what we do, and to see if there is support that we can get for our operation. During those conversations, it was suggested that we approach you all for whatever funds may be available to support our shelter and mission as it benefits all county residents. When we take in the cats, get them spayed and neutered, that reduces the number of cats that are in the community. They get a rabies shot. Hopefully their owners will be able to continue with rabies shots. We do try to educate, make sure that owners understand what quality of care, vaccinations they need to have, and we are trying to reduce the population within the county. When we accept litters of puppies, we will actually be accepting 14 puppies this week. We also work with the owners to make sure that we can get the mothers, if nothing else, spayed. We also try to get the dads neutered. So we are working very proactively to try to reduce the pet population within Nelson County. Because it was suggested that we approach you all for those funds, we have submitted a proposal for funding. It is $60,000. We kind of are, aim high, see what we can get. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. We do hope that, somewhere in the budget, you all can find something to assist us, as everything that we do does benefit the residents of Nelson County. And we appreciate your consideration of our request. Any questions?
Do you know what the average cost for an animal intake is?
For adult dogs, it is around $1,200. And that includes, the testing that we have to do, the vaccinations, spay and neuter, any treatments that they may need for illness that they have, but it's averaging around $1,200. I'm sorry, excuse me, that's a puppy. An adult dog is $900. And we work with several different veterinary clinics in the surrounding area and trying to get the best prices that we can.
And how many did you take from animal control last year?
Last year was limited because animal control was closed multiple times for various reasons. I don't have the exact number of how many came out of it.
Do you have the year before?
I can get that information for you. I don't have it with me. But we did take, most of the dogs that came to us were owner surrenders that would have otherwise ended up in animal control or let loose in the county.
Slight conjecture there. Okay. Any other questions?
When we spoke, you said years ago the board offered $10,000 a year.
That's my understanding.
Okay. Okay. If we were able to get you the 10 instead of the 60, would you be happy?
Of course, anything helps.
Other than that.
Jesse, any questions?
No, I was just gonna say, in this part of my district, I appreciate y'all being there, being good neighbors, and it was good to see the facilities improved from what I've seen historically, cleaned up some. I'm sure we'll take this under advisement, and I'm sure it sounds like Jessica would like to get some more comment, or not comments, but that request for information there, and hopefully we'll address this at our work sessions of sorts, so.
Mr. Reed?
No.
Any questions?
No.
Mr. Parr? Thank you very much.
Would you like me to follow up with those numbers?
Yeah, I've also requested animal control give us their numbers too.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. FY27 draft general fund budget introduction. Now the party really gets started.
Let's wait.
There's the hammer.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so to start with, our FY26-27 general fund budget is balanced. Our revenues equal expenditures at $56,454,295. A little bit about our historical budgetary practices. The FY27 introduced budget is based upon our historical premise that the annual expenditures will be funded by revenues generated from general property tax rates that are set every 4 years, and this is in conjunction with the county's 4-year reassessment cycle. The county's real property tax structure continues to prioritize relief programs for agricultural land, the elderly and disabled, and veterans and their spouses. This budget also maintains the practice of utilizing previous fiscal year carryover, which is generated when anticipated end-of-year revenues exceed anticipated end-of-year expenditures. These funds are used to fund non-recurring costs within the next fiscal year. Just a little bit of narrative that's kind of small to read, but overall, our budget maintains current levels of operational service while absorbing inflationary increases in all facets of operations. There is one exception. We are incorporating the costs and revenues associated with adding an after-school program within the Parks and Recreation Department budget. Proposed funding priorities include public safety and emergency services. This includes career and volunteer agencies, completion of the zoning ordinance update inclusive of preliminary mapping, also strategic planning, regional jail operations and facility renovations. The available funding for the school divisions introduce a budget for operations, Sheriff's Department fleet vehicle replacement, repairs and maintenance of county facilities and equipment that are at the end of support or useful life, continued investments in cybersecurity and local election security compliance, investment in human capital through the implementation of state and local employee compensation increases, Continued funding for agency partners with increases to the regional local library, Nelson County Community Development Foundation, and Foothills Child Advocacy Center, and continued utilization of state and federal grants to advance local objectives. We are including level funding of the debt service fund that is maintained in accordance with the current debt capacity strategy, which provides for taking on an additional $15 million in borrowing without needing new revenue. The FY27 proposed budget incorporates retainage of 16% of the overall 2026 reassessment increase in values at a real property tax rate of 57 cents per $100 of value. The tax rate will be set by the board in April following a public hearing. There are no other contemplated revenue enhancements that have been incorporated at this time. Primary local revenues continue to be property taxes supplemented by tourism-driven revenues, meaning meals and lodging, sales and use tax, and interest on investments due to a healthy fund balance. Ambulance transport revenues continue to support and offset the provision of 2 24/7 career emergency services crews within the county. The tax rates and fees incorporated into the FY27 budget currently include, as I mentioned, the real estate mobile home tax rate of 57 cents per $100 of value. This is the adjusted rate that retains 16% of the reassessment increases in values. Again, the actual real estate tax rates will be set by the board following a public hearing in April. Using the 57 cents, 100% value of the penny in real estate tax equivalent is $426,540. A 99.9% value is $426,113. The list of tax rates here currently remain unchanged within the budget from 2026. We have a personal property tax rate of $2.79 per $100 of value. Machinery and tools tax rates $1.25 per $100 of value. We have a transient occupancy tax of 7%, food and beverage tax of 4%, Virginia sales tax is 5.3%, on groceries it's 5%, and for non-food items and 2.5% for food items. And our business license fee is a flat $30. This chart compares our FY27 proposed budget with our FY26 amended budget as of the end of February. And it also compares the FY27 estimated budget with what we are projecting at the end of fiscal year 26. So for FY27, we are projecting local revenues of $45,458,289. That is a 10.7% increase from our amended budget and a 4.57% increase from our projected budget. State revenues are expected to be $5,373,116. This is 2.74% increase from our amended budget and 1.35% increase from the projected budget. Other revenues we aren't expecting, or we haven't budgeted for any right now. And then I skipped federal, I think. Federal revenues we're expecting to be $1.2 million. This is a decrease of about 9.5% from our FY26 amended budget and 8% less than our projected budget. We are expecting to incorporate $4,350,000 or $4,350,888 in our year-ending balance. Those are funds that come from the general fund balance, and we will explain where those funds come from later in the presentation. That is an 8.11% decrease from our FY26 amended budget, and also the same decrease from our projected budget. So overall, local revenues are expected to increase 10.7%, or $4.3 million from our FY26 amended budget, and 4.57% from the FY26 end of year projections. As noted previously, an increase of 16.6%, or $3,521,977 in real estate taxes is incorporated due to the retention of 16% of the 2026 reassessment growth in values and a slight natural growth estimated for 2027. Under this premise, the value of the penny for FY 27 at 100% tax collection is $426,540. A little note that given FY 27 real estate tax collections are comprised of the second half of the 2026 tax year and the first half of the 2027 tax year, any value or tax rate adjustments made as a result of the 2026 reassessment, which became effective January 1st, 26, will impact the FY 26 anticipated real estate collection. Retention of 16% of the 2026 increase in values at a tax rate of 57 cents provides a one-time collection of additional real estate tax in FY 26 of $1,531,956 over what was budgeted, and an estimated increase in real estate tax revenue of $3,521,977 in FY 27. Our public service tax has been budgeted at FY 26 levels. That's at $1,246,446, and this is until we are able to get the SEC data from the state. An increase of 4.6% in personal property and mobile home taxes over our budgeted amount for FY 26 is expected. However, a lesser increase of 1.69% over our current budget year projections is anticipated. Our 26 tangible personal property values are expected to remain flat overall. Our Commissioner of Revenue's office expects to have actual 2026 vehicle valuation data available for us in early April. So that could necessitate some adjustments in this estimate. Our local sales and use taxes are expected to increase 7.9% from budgeted and remain flat when compared to our FY 26 projections. These revenues may fluctuate depending on economic conditions throughout the fiscal year and will be monitored closely. An increase in meals and lodging taxes of 1.8% and 5.2% respectively is expected, or a total of $164,382 compared to the FY 26 budget. However, FY 27 maintains a level estimate as compared to these projections for FY 26. While anecdotal evidence suggests a decline in short-term rental bookings, our collected transient occupancy tax revenues continue to be strong. These are revenues that also fluctuate depending on economic conditions throughout the fiscal year and will be monitored closely. And here you can see the breakdown of the increase in the meals tax and lodging tax. We have not incorporated any increase in building permit fees for FY 27, with our FY 26 projections remaining at $365,000. This is a conservative estimate due to continued economic conditions, level or slightly declining mortgage interest rates, high cost of building materials, and labor. These in conjunction may inhibit new builds overall. These projections currently do not include any permitting activity that may occur from the Renaissance Ridge development, should that proceed with the first phase of construction in FY 27, or any adjustments to the permitting fee schedule. A decrease of 21.1% in court fines and forfeitures is estimated for FY 26 due to a slight overestimation in these revenues. For FY 27, we're anticipating a slight increase of 5.6% from the FY 26 projections, and that has been budgeted at $264,000. A conservative estimate of interest earnings of $1,276,000 reflects an expected increase in invested fund balance due to the incorporation of the 16% increase in real estate taxes from the reassessment expected in FY 27 as compared to FY 26 budgeted, and an 8% increase from the FY 26 projected collection. Interest rates are uncertain over the next year, and declines may offset the increase to the general fund balance expected during the upcoming fiscal year. So these revenues will also be monitored closely, as they also fluctuate depending on economic conditions. We are projecting an increase of 19.1% in EMS revenue recovery fees for ambulance transports. This is expected to remain at the same level of about $1,005,000 $1,598,000 in FY '27. Our latest billing transport rates became effective January 25, and this revenue helps to offset the costs associated with having our two 24/7 career EMS service crews who work in conjunction with volunteer services. Our other miscellaneous irregular revenues vary widely from year to year and include grants and other accounts that are typically appropriated into the budget after its initial adoption. In terms of state revenues, overall to start FY '27, we're showing these to be higher by 2.74% or $143,539, and 1.35% or $71,484, higher than the FY '26 end of year projections. This is very typical, as many state grants that are received in one fiscal year are received or not received in the following fiscal year, or are not budgeted until they are awarded or received during the fiscal year. Currently, the State General Assembly, House and Senate conferees are working to reconcile the state budget bills for recommendation to the governor. This session is set to conclude on March 14th. County's introduced budget includes a 2% salary increase and a $1,500 bonus for full-time employees of state-supported local offices effective July 1, 2026. This means a commensurate increase in salary and benefits reimbursements from the State Compensation Board for their proportionate share of these covered positions. We do not project any increase in state reimbursements for the Children's Services Act due to level budgeted expenditures. The state share of these expenditures is 68.68%, and the local share is 31.32%. We projected a slight decrease of 5% in reimbursement for the Department of Social Services costs. These were provided by DSS, and it is a $956 decrease from the projected FY '26 expenditures. The non-local portion of their budget is funded by 40% state funds. A 2% salary increase for state-supported local offices is also included in the FY '27 budget, and the state reimbursement for this salary increase will offset the associated increase in expenditures. Other categorical aid from the state includes grants received during the year, which fluctuates between fiscal years. These include fire funds, for life funds, state appropriated project funds, tourism and economic development grants, Library of Virginia grants, and other Sheriff's Department grants, which are typically appropriated within the budget when awarded or received. At the beginning of the new fiscal year budget for FY '27, we are showing an increase of $200,821 or 69.7%, and then a 2% increase from FY '26 projected amounts, mostly due to expected Virginia 911 PSAP grant funds of $150,000 that have not yet been received or appropriated, and $350,000 of these in these same funds estimated to be received in FY '27. Overall, to begin FY '27, federal revenues are shown to be lower by 9.4% or a negative $133,100 from our FY '26 amended budget, and similarly lower from the FY '26 end of year projections. This is also typical, as many federal grants that are received in one fiscal year are received or are not received in the following fiscal year, or not budgeted until they're awarded or received during that fiscal year. We're expecting a 5% decrease in anticipated federal reimbursement for the Department of Social Services costs. Again, due to slightly less estimated overall expenditures in FY '27 as provided by DSS. A slight increase of 0.14% is estimated for FY '27. The non-local portion of their budget is funded by 60% federal funds. Otherwise, federal grants related to the Department of Justice Adult Recovery Court grant and Victim Witness Grant funds remain the same as FY '26. Net reductions in federal revenue are attributed to other grant reductions shown between FY '26 and '27 that may or may not be appropriated within the FY '27 fiscal year. Other revenue factors, to begin FY '27, other revenues are shown to be lower by 0% or $0 for FY '26. and $21,138 lower from the FY 26 end of year projections. Other revenues have decreased from last fiscal year primarily because of revenues from canceled checks or other non-revenue receipts that are not budgeted in the coming fiscal year, but rather are appropriated as received due to their irregular nature. Additionally, FY 26 and 27 do not include a transfer into the general fund from other funds such as the reassessment fund due to the conclusion of the 26 reassessment. Here I'll talk about our FY 27 year-ending balance that we have estimated for the for the next fiscal year. The year-ending balance revenues of $4,350,888 are shown to be lower by 8.11%, or $383,824 from the FY 26 amended and projected budgets. The year-ending balance fluctuates during the fiscal year as funds received from a previous fiscal year are utilized within the current year budget. The FY 27 year-ending balance includes $878,733 of general fund balance and carryover funds of $3,472,155. FY 26 projected revenues of $54,910,693 are greater than our projected expenditures of $51,438,538. And this consists of the following. We have $995,605 in FY 26 projected net expenditure savings. This includes a savings of $189,193 for departmental operations, $305,558 in non-departmental operations, $296,808 in unspent capital outlay funds, and then $204,046 in unused recurring and non-recurring contingency funds. It also includes $2,476,546 in FY 26 projected net increases in categorical revenue anticipated. This includes $2,405,863 in local funds, of which $1.9 million is attributed to the incorporation of the 16% increase in 2026 reassessment revenue. Other increases include personal property and mobile home tax, late tax, penalty and interest earnings, and notable declines expected in recordation taxes, real estate tax sale proceeds, and other irregular revenues. We are expecting an increase in state revenues of $72,056. These are state shared expenses and grants. A decline in federal revenues of $22,511 in miscellaneous grants. And then other is an increase in $21,138. So that makes up the $4.3 million in year-ending balance that is included on the revenue side of the budget. I think Grace will probably discuss this again in her presentation, but just wanted to show you how we will be using that $4.3 million on the expenditure side of the budget. We will use, or we have projected to use, $2,441,673 in capital outlay. This is less $688,192 in funding for EMS vehicles that we will pull from the general fund balance. We also have $300,000 in non-recurring contingency, and then $730,482 in miscellaneous carry forward revenue and non-recurring costs. And that totals to $3,472,155, which is the total use of the FY 26 carryover funds. We are also proposing to use $190,541 to fund our full-time employee bonus of $1,500 and part-time employee bonus of $500. And then also pull in $688,192, which is a portion of the EMS vehicles cost we have budgeted in capital outlay. So total use of the general fund balance is $878,733 for the grand total of the equivalent year-ending balance on the revenue side of $4,350,888. This just outlines what our miscellaneous carry forward and non-recurring costs of $730,482 includes. We have $100,000 unused, ARPA and local assistance and tribal consistency funds. $66,386 in unused balance of direct opioid settlement funds. $112,000 unused solar siting agreements funds. $128,138 unused ARPA balance after the high school roof funding transfer to the school division, and $111,710 unused balance of forest sustainability funds, and then our $212,000 and $248 for our Livingston TAP grant local match to be billed in FY27. A little note that some of these funds are unrestricted. The ARPA funds are revenue replacement funds and can be used for any purpose. The solar siting funds of $112,000 will be available to benefit the Gladstone community at the board's discretion. And now I will turn it over to Grace to go through the expenditure side. All right, FY27 general fund expenditures, let's just say 27. That was one I missed. The introduced budget for FY27 is $56,454,295, an increase of $4,020,152, or 7.67% more than the FY26 amended budget. Revenues projected for FY27 are estimated at an equivalent increase from FY26, balancing the budget. For employee salaries and benefits, we include new part-time positions proposed and funded. One part-time child care coordinator, 2 part-time site directors, and 2 part-time group leaders for the new Parks and Recreation after-school program. The wages and FICA taxes amount to $68,955. 2% COLA increase to salary and benefits for full-time and part-time employees at $170,055. The 2% compensation board salary increase is included in the current biennial budget effective July 1st, 2026. Also, a one-time $1,500 bonus for all full-time employees, plus a $500 bonus for part-time employees, totaling $190,541. $1,500 bonus for state-supported local employees is pending approval by the governor. Also includes a 7% health insurance increase for Key Advantage 250, Key Advantage 500, and the high deductible health plan. This increase amounts to $71,184. The overall VRS employer contribution rate is increasing from 10.77% to 10.87%. Short-term disability rates are increasing from 0.74% to 0.79%. Group life insurance rates are decreasing from 1.18% to 1.06%. And then we have about $6,000 earmarked for estimated increase in the workers' comp premium. So now we get into other expenditures. We have incremental increases in utilities, fuel, mileage, postage, telecommunications, maintenance service contracts, and repairs and maintenance and equipment. We have year 4 of the adult recovery forward expenditures covered through the 4-year federal Department of Justice grant at the direction of the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. 4th year funding for FY27 is $192,000. The regional jail operational increase of $286,820. This includes an increase of $252,478 in debt service for the renovation project. For FY27, the total operational cost is $1,746,800, and the total debt service with that is $311,230. The county's 5-year average census decreased from 16.32% in FY26 to 15.88% of the total. The 5-year average census determines the percentage share for each member jurisdiction.
What are we paying on average inmate in the regional jail?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'll have to find it.
Have you been to a meeting yet?
It's coming up.
I got you.
And we have a paid EMS increase of $123,658. This includes the cost of living increase as well as $6,000 to support the community paramedic program. The increase to salaries and wages totals $82,522. Also, a 7% increase of $21,456 to benefits, an $8,000 increase to ambulance repairs, and a $10,000 increase for medical supplies, as NEMS will no longer have access to free oxygen. And then we have capital outlay of $2,676,290, covered by carryover funds from the year-end balance, where FY '26 revenues were more than the expenditures. These include $262,000 for 4 law enforcement vehicles, $27,107 for a new building inspections vehicle, $74,000 for a skid steer, $115,650 for the McGinnis Building structural repairs, $180,000 for replacement of emergency communication center furniture and raised floor tiles, $130,500 for the Larkin Water and Sewer Capacity Study, $95,000 for replacement for the Sheriff's Office mobile data computers, and $885,309 for emergency services vehicles. And as Candy mentioned, $688,000 of this is to come from the fund balance. We have level funding of most agency requests for FY '27. Exceptions are the regional library, increase of $31,442. Region 10 Community Services Board, increase of about $66,500. Health Department increase of $24,619. And the Monticello Area Community Action Agency, increase of $15,000. We have a level transfer to debt service of $3,325,284, as prescribed by our debt capacity strategy. Level funding of school nurses, as requested by the school division. Level funding in the operational budget for the school division of $19,918,914 is included. The additional request of $2,729,215 is not currently included. The county's ARPA carryover funds of $128,138. That's also included, which is the balance of funds not required for the school roof project.
And the school budget, on the school nurses, it does have a 2% increase beside that line item. In their budget.
Okay,
It just says level funded here though.
well, that's usually the amount that they take out for that. It's a separate. We can talk about it.
That's the amount we've given them for the past,
That's the amount that we provided, school division for school nurses for the past several
That's
years. So
fine.
it hasn't changed on our side.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure it's the same on their budget and theirs though. Just 2% on theirs, and it'll be 2% increase on ours, I would think. We're good. Rolling to the next.
we'll talk about it tomorrow.
Control.
We have our contingencies. Our recurring contingency is $4,121,977. The non-recurring contingency is $300,000, which makes the total of all contingency funds for FY '27 $4,421,977. And then this is just a calendar for the remaining budget meetings. Our next budget work session is scheduled for tomorrow, March 11th at 2 p.m. Is all. Okay, so hopefully, you gathered from that last slide where we have so many funds in contingencies because, we put the increases in revenues in the contingency funds. is in the recurring contingency fund, whereas the non-recurring comes from carryover. So the board has, ultimate discretion in how those funds get divided out. And then again, we we only made changes to any of the agency requests that you all had already decided upon. So most of the capital outlay and the agency requests are in as requested. So there's some room to go through and make some changes there if you'd like.
On the level funding and operation budget for school division, 19.9 million, additional request 2.7 million. Wasn't it 2.2 million? What's up?
Yeah, I think we'll have to go back and look at that number. The 2.7 includes the 600,000 in buses.
Buses, yeah, 2.2 plus buses.
So, obviously, this is a work in progress, so we'll make tweaks along the way, and that may be one of them. I'm not, 100% that they asked for 600,000 exactly in buses, but we will certainly get to reviewing all of this tomorrow.
Could have swore,
It was
or 2x2, because we had a similar discussion, didn't we, Jessica, that it was, I had said 2.2 and then 600,000 was included for the buses, and so reality operating costs was the difference in that. Not 2.2 for operating plus 600. We did specifically ask Shannon, and Shannon went and inquired with staff. Am I recollecting that correct for Jessica? Oh, you got notes, perfect.
I do have notes.
All those things. When it comes to money, I've got my eyes dotted, T's crossed, J.
I gotcha. I was just saying because that was a discussion point in our 2x2, and it was relayed to us that within the 2.2, 600,000 was buses. Ernie, what did you hear?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Well, if that is the case, then we will make that adjustment.
Sure, okay.
And then any extra funds will go into contingency and then,
Right. Right. No, I understand. I was just, you got me scared with that number.
sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Has their line item budget been provided?
No, well, my understanding is they meet tomorrow night to adopt their budget.
Would you like to
potentially.
see it?
And so we should receive that by the end of the week, I would think.
Okay.
It was under transportation.
1.4 million and the 600 was 2.3.
2.3. That sounds right. Because they were putting the buses under. They were putting the buses under transportation. Okay.
So they did that last year.
Same thing. Yeah.
And what we did on our side is we separated that out between the recurring and non-recurring funds side of it on our side.
Right.
So you could potentially do that again if you prefer to use a one-time funding source for the buses and then reduce the operational transfer by that amount. If that makes sense.
Right. And I only speak for myself in this. I believe that to be a good practice, treating the buses with non-recurring funds if possible.
Yeah, I agree.
I think we should continue that, even though I understand the intent is to create a systemic process. Definitely is a lot easier for me from a budgetary digestion standpoint to have that treated that way.
That line item is 63,500, and it is $600,000 for 4 buses. It's in their budget.
All right.
Just getting started, everybody.
Taxes not enough. I'm trying to make it $500,000.
Okay. New and unfinished business. We have the opioid abatement grant application and match request.
Hello, I'm Susan Morrow. I'm the Assistant Director at OAR. Before we get fully into the PowerPoint, I just want to say thank you for letting us come here on such short notice today. Let you know why I'm here. OAR is planning to apply for an opioid abatement cooperative partnership agreement grant with Orange County acting as the fiscal agent.
This grant would both sustain and support the rural recovery courts in the 16th District of Virginia. These are Nelson, Fluvanna, and the Orange Madison Recovery Court, all of which are administered by OAR. All three of these programs began with federal grants, and all three of them are facing the prospect of having their federal funding run out. This has already happened in Fluvanna. It's going to happen in Orange Madison in June of this year, and it's going to happen in Nelson in September of next year. So none of these localities can financially sustain and support these programs on their own, hence the need to find new funding. And hence the need to apply for an opioid abatement grant. Eligible applications to the OAA must either propose new programs or enhance existing programs. So our application is going to be to enhance these existing programs in the 16th Judicial District. And now, there's Chris.
I'm Chris Wire. Some of you know me. I've been the coordinator for Nelson Recovery Court here for the since it started in 2023. I'm just going to run through a brief overview of recovery courts in general and the program. The Recovery Court Act is just simply the enabling legislation that allowed recovery courts to be implemented in Virginia. This is a brief history of Nelson County Recovery Court. Started planning in 2021. I was hired in May of 23, and we entered our first participant in August of 2023. Nelson County Recovery Court's mission statement: it exists to reduce recidivism and drug use within the community. To accomplish this aim, the Nelson County Recovery Court seeks to implement evidence-based best practices by relying on 10 principles as established below. Drug and alcohol testing, folks are tested 2 to 3 times per week. Collaboration amongst the team in a non-adversarial manner. Our team consists of prosecutors, defense attorneys, treatment, supervision, and they all work together in conjunction to best ensure success of the participant. Identify and process potential participants as quickly as possible. Provide access to wide continuum of treatment. We work with Region 10, both in Nelson for individual therapy and Charlottesville for intensive outpatient. Establish success through drug testing. When participants start to test negative and they're able to count the number of days, it's kind of like a snowball effect. Promote consistent, fair, and clinically appropriate responses to non-compliance. Consistent judicial interaction. Participants have to appear before a judge frequently to respond to their progress, whether it's positive or negative. Self-evaluate. We always want to self-evaluate as the program goes on and grows. Self-educate. Training is a big part of this. To get the team going, there was a foundational training. We've since had follow-up trainings. We've sent folks to national trainings for drug court and state trainings as well. And continue to develop new partners in the community to ensure effectiveness. Goals of recovery court: obviously reduce substance use disorders among defendants, reduce recidivism, re-arrest, make it easier for the Commonwealth Attorney's Office and reduce substance-related court workloads. Those folks who are frequently coming into court reoffending. Increase personal, familial, and societal accountability among defendants. Substance abuse is kind of isolating, so these folks become isolated from those ties to the community. And promote effective planning and use of resources amongst the criminal justice system and community agencies. So a little bit about the program. The participation in the program is voluntary. These folks are looking at some type of jail sentence or conviction, but they're choosing to participate in the program as a way to get rid of that and also get through their substance use problem. We only work with felony cases, and they need to be drug related, whether that means there's a possession of drugs, that's the underlying charge, or that there was an addiction that led to the offense. We focus on folks that are at high risk of reoffending. So we're looking at the highest risk, highest need participants for our program. And we work with moderate to severe substance use disorders. It involves strict supervision. So this is like intensive probation. These individuals are in the office 2 to 3 to 4 times per week for drug testing through the entire life of the program. And it is a minimum of a year and 2 months, minimum of 14 months. Intensive treatment, they are mandated to participate in treatment throughout the entirety of the program. Starts more intense, intensive outpatient usually, or inpatient. Intensive outpatient is about 9 hours a week, and it steps down, but they remain in treatment groups for the length of the program. Ongoing judicial monitoring, this is one of the more important parts. They're before the judge frequently to review progress, every week to start. And it's a different interaction than as is typical. They're used to going before the judge and not speaking. Lawyer talks for them. It's kind of and they're often getting punishment. Here, there's kind of an interaction. The judge speaks to them, they speak back to the judge, and we try to encourage and keep folks going when they're doing good. And recovery courts are specialized court dockets, so they exist kind of outside of the regular docket. They're different. So this is just a little backstory on the structure of the program here. It is a 5-phase program. Phase 1 being the most restrictive, and it lessens as the phases go on. In phase 1, like I said, folks are in court once per week. They're engaging in 9 hours of treatment per week. They're drug testing 4 times per week. They have individual therapy, slightly lessened as it goes on. We require that they will start working in phase 2 and 3 of the program. Minimum of 14 months, that's if they breeze through it. They need a certain amount of sober time to get out of each phase. So the length of time in the program will change based on the individual's progress. Intensive treatment, accountability, going before the judge weekly, bi-weekly, every 3 weeks creates a lot of accountability. Drug testing, again, 2 to 3 to 4 times the whole entirety of the program. Frequent appearances before the judge, and we use incentives and sanctions. When they're doing well, they get some type of incentive, whether it's a lessening of requirements, or we use a fishbowl where their name will be drawn out. They might get a gift card. And sanctions, jail time for the most extreme cases. We try to stress honesty and accountability, showing up. When those things are violated, they'll get jail time. Otherwise, it is more treatment focused. Community service, extra support groups, stuff like that. We have a best practices advisory committee that meets every 3 months. Thank you to Mr. Reed and Ms. McGarry, who are part of that advisory committee. It is state mandated per that code that we have an advisory committee, and we discuss program related stuff, amendments to the handbook and manual, stuff like that. There's Judge Doucette and one of our graduates. Since August of 2023, we've had 12 total participants. We currently have 6 participants. We've had 5 successful graduates, and we've had 1 termination. This just speaks to, we have as part of the federal grant, a grant monitor who comes out and trains us and ensures we're adherent to best practices. So she came out in July and August of 2024, and she observed and individually interviewed each team member. And then we had a day-long training as a whole team, and then she offered feedback and suggestions, and it was a positive experience. So this is a calculation of rough savings for the recovery report. For this, we assumed that a day in recovery court, otherwise it would be a day in jail. So we have had 12 participants, and that has come out to 4,393 days in the program. And we subtracted 49 days that folks served as jail sanctions while in the program. Subtotal 4,344 days. And the cost of one day at ACRJ, 198.22. So for this metric, that came out to 861,067.68 of savings. Some challenges, transportation, as with all the rural counties, is a huge challenge. We have some funds to help with that, but they're limited, and the presence of Uber and Lyft is limited too. Like, we can get people from Charlottesville to here, but getting them anywhere in Nelson, elsewhere, can be a challenge. Sometimes somebody will be available, sometimes they won't. Folks who live in Schuyler, it's particularly challenging. Need for family counseling and family reunification. Thinking to all of the participants we've had currently and past, this plays a role in every single one of their cases. Substance abuse is devastating on the whole family, and this is same thing with people, participants not being with their kids, wanting to one day in the future be with their kids. This is a very important piece there. Limited access to community support groups. There is one AA meeting in Nelson County. That's the only in-person support group. We started a virtual support group for folks, but we would love to expand the options. AA, NA, any type of support group. Lack of behavioral health and medication-assisted treatment. Lack of sober living options. For folks that have housing problems, we don't have any Oxford houses or sober living options in Nelson County. So the funds that we do have go towards housing them in Charlottesville. So that's where many of the sober housing options are. And then lastly, need for ongoing post-program support for alumni. It's very important to keep graduates engaged after they leave the program. So one thing that this grant focuses on is recovery capital. And recovery capital is just things that an individual possesses that aids in the recovery. And it breaks it down into different categories there. Skills that are personal to you, such as communication skills, coping skills, social network, friends, family, just any positive support in the community. And then stuff that is inherent to the community, like transportation, support groups, housing, stuff like that. Where we want to grow, as said before, family counseling and reunification is a very important one. Destigmatizing events. One thing we're doing soon is a 5K, and that's an example of a destigmatizing event. Oftentimes 5Ks are maybe at a brewery or winery, you get a free drink afterwards. This is a sober one. People can comfortably participate in it while in recovery. Like I said, peer support groups, alumni support groups. Our program in Charlottesville, the recovery court there has a large alumni group. One of our recent graduates is participating in it, and that would be somebody who could help start one specific to Nelson County. Transportation assistance, sober living support, all those things. Now I'm gonna hand it over to Susan.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is correct this slide. Federal funding terminates on September 30th of 2027, not 28. And I also want to point out on this slide that Nelson County already financially supports the recovery court through providing matching funds for the BJA grant they're operating under right now. Through the purchase of incentives, which I think the board has approved each year that we've had the recovery court, which has been very generous and very appreciated because BJA does not allow that expense. And also in-kind contributions to the program. Chris has an office here in the courthouse in Nelson. So there's, and also all the time and effort the Commonwealth Attorney's Office and the sheriff and everybody is putting into the program. The OAA grant would request and require an annual match as well. When we do receive an OAA award, the grant would begin on July 1 of 26 and run through June 30th of 3031. So taking a look at the timeline for implementation of the family counseling and reunification programming piece, it will be phased with a pilot project starting in the Orange Madison Recovery Court in years 1 and 2. Expansion then into the Fluvanna Recovery Court in year 3. Further expansion into the Nelson Recovery Court in year 4. And year 5, we would continue the services in all localities. Oops. So the timeline for the other benefits that would be provided by this grant is much quicker. Nelson will receive all the benefits of the enhancements beginning in year 1. They won't need to take advantage of many of those benefits because they still have their federal funding. But starting in year 2, when their federal funding goes away, Nelson will begin receiving the whole gamut, as well as getting sustainment funding, so sustaining the whole recovery court as is. And that funding would continue through 2031. So the upshot is, and whether Nelson wants to participate in this grant, and if so, whether a match could be provided. I have provided in the packet a couple of things. There's the colorful page with the county budgets on it. Yeah, that shows you approximately, that is a rough estimate of sort of the benefit that's going to come to Nelson County as a result of this grant, the cost of the benefit. I've also provided a sheet from the Opioid Abatement Authority showing Nelson's estimated settlement distribution. Thank you. So the area in green under no application to OAA, those are the direct distribution funds that are just sent to Nelson, put in your bank account, and you are asked to utilize them for opioid abatement activities. The middle blue section is called your individual distribution. That's funding that the Opioid Abatement Authority has set aside for Nelson County, but you have to apply for it in order to get it. So to, I guess, show that you're using it for abatement activities. And then the green at the end, that's the gold standard incentive. And that is like I think it's a 10 or 15% bonus if you enter into some agreement with the Opioid Abatement Authority that you're always going to use your funding from them for approved activities. I can say we've been in contact with our regional reps from the Opioid Abatement Authority. They agree that this grant proposal is in line with opioid abatement activities and restrictions. If you want to consider a match coming from opioid abatement funds, you are allowed to use your individual distribution. You don't have to apply for anything extra. You just say that's what we're going to use, and you're allowed to use the gold standard incentive as well. I think you've already committed $22,000 to ACRJ as part of another cooperative agreement grant. But that leaves this year 21,000 plus all the additional years. I went ahead and added it up, just based on the individual distribution alone. By 30/31, Fluvanna will have 57,954 if they don't use it on anything else. One other thing, I keep saying wrong counties, I'm sorry. Nelson, one other thing is that the individual distribution is on a use it or lose it basis. They give it to you for 5 years. If you don't spend it, they take it back. You guys are doing okay because you've already spent 22,000 of it. So your first couple of years, you're good. But keep an eye on that as the years go by.
Okay.
Candy has a question or statement.
Yes, thank you very much. I just wanted to mention the resolution you have in your packet, does indicate the 50,000 of unallocated, opioid abatement authority individual distribution funds that could be used, for our local match for this grant, and also suggests, committing 10,000 of this per year for the local match. For the board's discussion there as far as provision of a local match.
Using 10,000 of the 50,000 per year over the next 5 years.
Right, it's gonna be $50,000, $10,000 a year.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions for Susan?
No.
No questions for Susan. Congratulations.
I just want to echo, since the creation of the drug court, I know Ernie, you've had a little bit more of an intimate view on that. Are you still an advisor or whatever?
I am.
You know, it having gotten to now see peers that I have grown up with come out of that program, it's kind of a special thing. And I pray for their continued success and hope that no other reality changes or relapse. I know that's not always going to be possible, but seeing the hope on some mama's eyes and some applicants is a very special thing.
I want to thank Chris for his leadership in this. It's been really instrumental in terms of keeping this going and moving and succeeding like it is. So very grateful.
Any questions, comments, motions?
I'm happy to make a motion that we adopt resolution R 2026-14, Nelson County Board of Supervisors approval of the county's participation in the Opioid Abatement Authority Cooperative Partnership Grant to provide continued funding for the recovery courts of Nelson, Orange, Fluvanna, and Madison County.
We have a second?
Second.
Oh, we have some discussion.
No, not discussion necessarily, just we need to amend the resolution in that first
Okay.
whereas to read our
2027.
2027 and then FY 28 instead of.
Okay,
Mr. Reed, you amend your motion.
I so move.
I amend my second.
All right, we have the amended motion for resolution R 2026-14 and a second. Oh, you can do a roll call vote, it's fine.
Mr. Bob,
Yes.
Mr. Reed.
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford.
Yes.
Mr. Lennon.
Yes.
Dr. Layton.
Yes. Okay. Request to extend Piney River Water Sewer, Jenny's Creek.
Madam Chair, before we begin discussion on this particular item, as I had indicated in a email sent earlier, there are with this particular parcel, I'm under contract to purchase 2 parcels. I believe I have a conflict of interest with this discussion. I will be removing myself from the discussion and the dais. Gonna go to the bathroom until the vote is over, and then I will return to my seat. Please reflect that in the minutes.
Mr. Shemp was not able to be here today to present his request to you. However, I can do so briefly. He provided a memo to you in the packet, where he says Jenny's Creek LLC proposes to expand the county water and sewer systems in Piney River. A new public sanitary force main of 631 feet, SDR 11 pipe, and a new public water line of 639 feet of 2-inch SDR 11 connecting to the existing mains will be constructed. These new mains will serve 7 lots containing residential dwellings within parcel 65A-45, as shown on your screen there. In accordance with the Nelson County Ordinance, section 12-66 and 12-67, connections to sewer and water mains are required if buildings are within 1,000 feet of public utilities. A 30-foot wide utility easement will contain the public water and sanitary pipes and 7 water meters within the project. We received an email from the Nelson County Service Authority saying that Mr. Shemp had shared his intentions of extending the 2-inch water line and 2-inch pressure sewer line from the 12-inch water main and the 4-inch pressure sewer main located under Route 56 in Piney River for the Jenny's Creek subdivision. The existing consecutive waterworks system has the capacity of providing services as well as receiving domestic wastewater from the proposed Jenny's Creek subdivision. I believe that was news since your packet went out. With this system being owned by the county and operated by the Service Authority, the county must provide its approval of any expansions of the water sewer utility infrastructure. We have provided a draft developers agreement that would be used to solidify this agreement, and also once the infrastructure is completed, it would have to be, the ownership of it would be turned over to the county. And the draft developers agreement also speaks to this. I can't answer any technical questions for you, other than very basic ones. But this was Mr. Shemp's proposal. I was hoping he'd be here to answer those technical questions for you.
It's no cost to the county, correct?
Correct. No cost to the county. He covers all the costs of installation, all of those things.
Correct.
And the subsequent connection fees. Yes.
And then this will add 6 new users.
7.
7, well, one of them's already there.
Okay.
I don't know if they're connected, I would assume they're connected, but 6 new, construction that will be paying into the system.
That's correct. Yes.
And is this, division, is this something that has gone through planning and zoning, or where is?
It's awaiting, approval from the county to satisfy the water and sewer requirement, that planning and zoning needs in order to approve the subdivision.
So if we approve this and then it doesn't go through planning and zoning, then it just,
Right,
nothing.
it'd be like any other subdivision approval. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Bill is still here. If she needs to add it or not.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with it, I mean,
I
adding
believe we did
users.
include a resolution in your packet for consideration.
Yes,
I'll make a motion
Okay.
on this. Resolution R 2026-15. Nelson County Board of Supervisors approval of the expansion of the Piney River water and sewer system.
second,
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
aye,
All those opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
There's been another request for another bathroom break.
That's good.
We'll take another 5-minute break.
We know where to find them.
Yeah.